Thank you, baby. Wow. I was thinking when she was blowing that, how in the Marine Corps, I was in the weapons, or I had a weapons platoon that I was over, and every kind of weapon imaginable, and one of them was a 105 howitzer, and so my right ear, uh, from those days, but my left ear is fine, and she's blowing that shofar, and my left ear, and like, wow, that's loud. So thank goodness it's a sound of heaven, and every time I just rejoice. I'm thankful, and I know that you and I will hear shofars and we'll hear the trumpet of the Lord. Greetings in the Lord Jesus Christ. Make welcome in our wisdom warriors, our sage warriors, and intercessors throughout the nation and around the world. Today is a special broadcast, and I had said that I was considering doing some of these, and I'll show you some pictures and think of it in that way, that coming to your home, I always, when I present to the family, or some look at it as our church, Bible study, but I always honor the Father, and I try to dress in a suit, and thankfully my bride, who is in fashion design, she doesn't have much to work with, but she does dress me, and say, well, I knew a military uniform, and in most of my life in college I only had one suit, and I used to tell the Lord, and I said, when I have other suits, I'll be sure to wear them to honor, when I come to your home. And so when I come to visit you, I'm not going to be a slob. I'm not going to show up in a pair. I don't wear all that stuff anyway, but all them other things. So more casual in these. It's not so much a teaching, but just talk to you for a few minutes, and I hope it's just for a few minutes. And I will do these occasionally as the Lord leaves. I'm finishing up the spiritual warfare series in our culture, society, influences. And I've gone deeper and deeper into things that affect you and I in the world today. And I started touching on a few things, and I will try to finish up on that this weekend. It's been, as Kimberly said, we'll see how you do today without 3 nights of sleep. So we'll see. But thank you for your prayers and all the things that you send to me. But I wanted to put this out to give the president time to do something he said he would do, because it's of concern not only to me as a former Marine and a person who served this nation and our veterans, but I love this nation, and I love what we stood for when the nation was founded. And it was interesting to see the King talk about the Tea Party and the Boston Tea Party and some of the things as we move forward to commemorate 250 years. But there has been an underlying thing, I'll leave it at that, that's been there for a long time. And people don't want to talk about it. They don't want to mention it. And when they do, things can happen. Let's see how we do, and we'll take it from there, assuming that anything works today. That was on March 12th, 1933, Franklin Roosevelt gave his first fireside chat on the radio. Used to be a time when all the family and others would gather around. They had the fireplace or a pot stove to keep them warm, and they were on a fireside chat, and they would all listen to the radio. And the president, that was his first one. It was just 8 days after his inauguration. Began to want to talk for a few minutes with the people of the United States. At the time in 1933, the Depression and all those things with the banks, and his first address was about the banks and the banking system. But it said citizens across the nation tuned in to listen. Ironically, that's on YouTube. You can still listen to his speech today, or I think the transcripts are on there if you wanted. But I thought about that, and for Cajuns, and I've said this many times, we do everything around the kitchen, and not only in the kitchen but around the kitchen, and we love to eat, and we love to feed people that come over. We were very poor, but my mother always had red beans and rice and cornbread and other things that were available for, with 4 boys in the family and my 2 older brothers, they had kids that would come out of the house that had knew who they were. They would bring different things to the house, squirrels or turtles and different things that they were hunting in those days, and they knew that my mama or this lady that helped her, my mom worked several jobs at that time, and she had a lady that I never met her later. My younger brother said she's about 6'6". I remember that she was big, and she had 2 children. She was a black lady, and she would come over and help my mother. I don't know what she paid her or not, but I know that her 2, I think she had a lot of children, but the 2 she brought were about our age, and we used to would sit and eat together. And she did I remember one time I was stung by a lot of wasps, and she got some tobacco and put it all over all those stings on my body, and I guess it sucked out, but I remember her very well. But back to Cajuns, we do a lot around the kitchen table. I think about this group down in Monroe, Duck Dynasty, and that family, kind of the same thing. So for our family, I'd shown this to you, and I had asked my friend, and she sent that. I kind of look at it as a Cajun version today, with sitting around the table. As I said, I'll come over and drink a cup of coffee. The coffee my mother made was community brand or something. You could almost stand a spoon up in it, so you had to have sugar and cream. And she made delicious upside down pineapple cake and all kind of other stuff. But just starting off with that, I know that those in Louisiana and other parts that would remind you of some of the times around the table. Thanksgiving was crazy. National War Council, Ephesians 6:12. Thank you for all your prayer requests that you send in. Thank you for the donations, those people that make it possible. And just going through the list again last night, I was thinking about my young Coastie, who is now proposed and is engaged. And congratulations to my young Coastie. We're praying for you and your family, and the lady that says we want our daughter to be able to have open her womb, I think is what Kimberly read to me. So there's so many things like that we're praying for, and those that need healing, and those that, there's a young man that is in a home for the mentally challenged, and for his parents and for him, we pray. So there's a lot that come in, and it's not, we don't brush it off. We take it personal. Your prayers, we never mention a name. We never mention that. We never will. But we mention circumstances so that you know that that's exactly what I'm going through. Quite a few have written about depression, discouragement, feeling overwhelmed at this point. So I try not to be long on these, so let's see how we do. This is my first one, so I thought about the president when he did his first radio chat in 1933. I asked AI, I did one of these, something that was kind of foreboding in a very dry, arid area between valleys with the sun setting. It kind of set the mood of what I had thought about and what I had prayed about over the last few months. I mentioned this on one of our teachings. I didn't last week. I'm doing it today to see. You'll see in the slides today, I want to see if our president follows up on what he said. Murder, mysterious deaths, and missing top secret scientist. Probably late in May or in June, I'm going to touch back on this and some of the phenomena, and then lead into the Great Deception. Probably will be there in June if the Lord allows. To me, this is very disturbing. It has been for a long time and ignored, and you were whatever I said, a tinfoil hat, or they made fun of you, ostracized you, and all of that. Well, that's not the case anymore. There's too many millions that this includes, and many of you, many of them in this family. And we are born again. We love the Lord Jesus Christ. We have our feet firmly planted on the ground in Scripture. And so we're not given to hysteria and crazy things, but we are astute and we pay attention. Murder and mysterious deaths. A series of murders and unexplained deaths have occurred, raising questions and suspicions with those who pay attention. I pay attention, and it's not like a church service you go to and expect a 30-minute sermon or whatever they do. Ours is different, but I'm taking these so it's not within our teaching series, deep meat of the word, but I want our family to be aware of these things. You may be. You may be more ahead of this than I am, because I really hadn't watched the news for so many years until recently, and I still don't go to those acronym ABC, NBC, CBS. It's propaganda. I've seen what it's done to some of our family members that have brainwashed them over the years. It's sad to see. If you're still watching that, shame on you. The circumstances surrounding these incidents remain unclear, fueling speculation about potential connections to covert government programs and hidden motives. Missing top secret scientist. Alongside these troubling events, top secret scientists have vanished without a trace. Their disappearance has added another layer of intrigue, which should prompt legitimate investigations into whether their absence is linked to murders and mysterious deaths. Not those commissions that they've set up in the past that was all show, right? It was all show. They weren't going to get down to the bottom of it, never had any intention of getting down to the bottom of it. And you can go back, and I'll talk a little bit about the government. But let's touch on a few of these things, and I'll just, like I said, try to be short today. This is the president. I thought his speech at the dinner was very well, and same with King Charles. I thought his humor it surprised me for one of the royals, but it was a good speech. Chilling pattern is raising eyebrows across the U.S. And now Donald Trump is weighing in. Well, I think General Flynn probably brought this to everyone's attention. I told Luke last night and Kimberly, I said, I never used to hear Mike much, and now he's about 6-7 times a day. It pops up on my phone of something he's posted. So it's interesting, but it's good, and I appreciate the general doing that. Speaking with reporters this week, Trump addressed growing concern over a series of scientists and military-linked experts who have either disappeared or died under mysterious circumstances in recent years. His reaction was equal parts cautious and unsettling. Let me say this. What does this have to do with anything? It has something to do with everything. If you pay attention from the scriptures, and we go back to Daniel, and all through that I have taught on eschatology in the end days, knowledge to and fro, right? We'll travel to and fro throughout the earth, and knowledge will increase. There are so many things now that you couldn't have said before. Actually, you think of the nuclear 2 times, right, to end the war, Nagasaki and Hiroshima, 1945, and 47. I was telling Kimberly and Luke today, it's interesting that 1947 was Roswell, and 1947 is when they discovered the Dead Sea Scrolls. Just a coincidence, probably. No, not with our Father. There's no coincidence. 10 U.S. scientists, well, it's growing now, with top secret ties die or go missing. Pretty serious stuff, Trump says. All of the remains of giants, giant bones throughout this nation and around the world vanished, suddenly gone. These elongated skulls, right? Elongated skulls found all over the world. they disappear. It's amazing how all those things, we can thank partially the Smithsonian was a big part of that. They would go and investigate these sites, cordon them off, put security around it, and all of that would disappear. A wave of mysterious deaths and disappearance among American scientists has called the attention of the White House. I would hope so. You have 17 intelligence agencies beneath you. And I think one said, Tim, the congressman said, I think if 10 used car salesmen all disappeared at one time, or 10 whatever they were, 10 chefs, the whole country would know about it. Well, this one, not so much, kind of mum, right? President Donald Trump vowed on Thursday, April 16th, to launch a formal investigation, mark that, April 16th, to launch a formal, not as my mother used to say that word half-cocked, but she didn't use that word. She had a vocabulary, believe me. To launch a formal investigation, speaking to reporters outside the White House before boarding Marine One. Trump said, I hope it's random. And I said before when I talked about this, please, Mr. President, we know that you're smarter than that. You're not naive. Except in Iran. I will say when it comes to Iran and it comes to the Muslims, you are very naive. And you put Jared in this other Weisskopf. But we are going to know in the next week and a half. Well, April 16th, week and a half, I don't think we know anything at this point. He added, I just left a meeting on that subject. Trump called the situation pretty serious stuff. Some of them were very important people. And we're going to look at it over the next short period. This is the president. When he speaks, he says, I want you to understand when I speak, I mean what I say and say what I mean, right? That's when he's talking to world leaders and all those others about bombing or tariffs or, NATO. So he should be just as adamant on these as he is when he speaks on those platforms, right? The White House confirmed on Wednesday, April 15th, that it is looking into the pattern of deaths and disappearances, which have occurred since mid-2023 and involved at least 10 scientists with access to classified nuclear, aerospace, or UFO-related research. You just circle the UFO research, UAPs. According to multiple media reports, those who died or are missing include, think if this was a husband, a father, a wife, an uncle, you want some attention on these things, right? So this was, I'll let you read the names, the NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory. He died July 30th, 2023, and they're all mysterious deaths, by the way. I didn't, out of respect for the families, go into the details. Another at NASA JPL died July the 4th, 2024. So we're not talking a long time ago, okay? Los Alamos National Laboratory, missing since May the 8th, 2025. Let me say this, and I heard one talking head, or whatever they call these guys that's supposed to know so much. It's probably the Chinese or the Russians. If the Chinese and the Russians are coming into our country and killing these people or kidnapping them, then I can tell you the CIA, the NSA, and all of the intelligence agencies are failing the President of the United States and failing the people of the United States. So it's not the Chinese, it's not the Russians, it's not certainly the Iranians at this point. So they always point to these figures, it's got to be them. No, it doesn't have to be them. I'll talk about how many times our own government has lied to us, maybe in June, we'll see. Here's one from Los Alamos National Laboratory, another one, Melissa, missing since June 26, 2025. Missing. Here's another one, a government contractor at the Kansas City National Security Campus, missing August 28th. You remember what these people, right? Nuclear, aerospace, or UFO-related research. I'll say it at this point. FOIA, F-I-O-A, right? Freedom of Information Act. The way the government is getting around that now they contract out to these large military contractors that are not subject to FOIA, right? Freedom of Information Act. So they put these programs with them, Raytheon, Lockheed, Boeing, and all these others, right? So they don't have to report. They've gotten wise about it. UFO related. Here's another one. MIT Plasma Science and Fusion Center Director shot and died December 16th, 2025. There's another one. Astrophysicist was shot and killed outside his home February 16th, 2026. Found dead in a lake on March 17th, 2026. Novartis Cancer Research. Here's another one. A retired Air Force Major General. Major General has been missing since February 27th, 2026. A two-star general come up missing, and okay, top secret clearance. It's 2026. Some of the scientists were involved in sensitive government projects, including nuclear fusion, asteroid defense, and classified aerospace research. Several had ties to UFO research. Now they call them UAPs. They just changed the name. Unidentified Area Phenomenon, and they're going to change it again, fueling speculation about the nature of their work. I'm not an alarmist, but this is serious. This is very, very serious. Do you think that the media is going to cover this? Not at all. They're owned, lock, stock, and barrel. UFO witness died of drug mix before congressional testimony or Congress testimony. The mysterious list of dead and missing aerospace scientists and experts continue to grow as it has been learned that an Air Force veteran who agreed to testify before Congress, I'm just quoting this, by the way, I didn't write this, about UFO programs died of what was ruled an accidental drug overdose just months before the hearing. As I told Luke earlier, our brakes on our car are working fine. We don't have any gas leaks. I'm not suicidal. I know where I'm going and Kimberly going and Luke is going, but it will be in God's timing. He knows when, right? But it is a serious thing when you start talking about these things. Kimberly asked me, is this dangerous? I said, even before when we lived, in Texas, and I said the CIA made calls to me, identified who they were, met with in Washington, told me I'd never work for anybody unless I went work for two of their programs. That was several years ago. Suburbans out in front of our house running. So I know the drill. The New York Post on Saturday reported learned of the death of Matthew, 39 years old, who died in Falls Church, Virginia on May the 12th, 2024. A lethal mix of alcohol, this other stuff, I can't even pronounce them, according to the Northern District of the Chief Medical Examiner. Okay? I wrote that out for you. These are articles. Anti-anxiety medication. This is a muscle relaxant. Drug for children used to treat anxiety and bedwetting. All prescription drugs. The mixture of this is what he supposedly died of. According to a letter obtained by the New York and California tabloid, Sullivan's death is of grave concern to Congressman Representative Eric Burleson, Republican from Montana, Missouri. No, Montana, I'm sorry. With the congressman referring to the death to the FBI due to what he called implications for national security. You can send it to the FBI, you can send it to the CIA, NSA, you're not going to get anything. Mr. Sullivan's death was a local Virginia medical examiner case, and the manner and circumstances of his death raised substantial questions as he was preparing to provide testimony to Congress. The April 16th letter addressed to FBI Director Kash Patel, who is close to being on his way out. The sudden and suspicious circumstances surrounding his death raised significant concerns about potential foul play and the safety of other individuals involved in this matter. In matter, yeah, UAPs, UFOs, extraterrestrials, crash sites, right? The FBI indicated in a statement that Sullivan's death could be under investigation. Could be. I thought the president said he was going to launch a formal investigation. Along other missing or dead U.S. scientists and experts, the number of which ranges from 10 to 12 was growing, depending on what official titles are counted. Many had access to highly classified government secrets. Burleson argues that Sullivan could very well be number 13 on the list, explaining his concerns in an interview with Fox News. Fox has gotten as bad as the other three. I don't watch Fox at all anymore. While we do not comment on specific incidents, the FBI is spearheading the effort to look for connections into the missing and deceased scientists. Let me say this. I'm trying on my teachings and broadcasts just to stay away from politics, because people, we don't have a dialogue anymore. We can't exchange or agree to disagree. So most people are not going to change their mind. But I look at it and I talk about former presidents. I talk about the Democratic Party. But also when I look at this president and I look at the Republicans, they've had the White House, they've had Congress, the House, and the Senate for 2 years. What have we seen when it comes to accountability? Nothing. What have we seen when it came to Russiagate? Nothing, right? Finally, they got Comey again. They're finally looking into Fauci and his assistants. 2 years, and I said at the time, I liked Pam Bondi, but she was over her head, right? Nothing was done for 2 years, right? And so Bongino was gone. Patel may be gone. We have an acting attorney general who he should probably be the attorney general. But just to say that for 2 years, it was all talk when we get the White House and we control Congress, we're going to do all these things. You haven't done anything. You look at the economy. Right? You've blocked a lot of the crazy stuff Democrats are trying to do, but they've blocked you at every turn. Democrats stick together, know how to fight. Republicans, they have no clue. So don't tell me that we have to have the House and we have to have the Senate and we have to have the White House because we're going to do all these things. Talk, 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 right? Sound bites for when it comes election time. And boy, it's election time and we're seeing all these ads. They're all so pro-Trump, so pro-American, so pro. Yeah. I digressed. We're working with the Department of Energy, Department of War, and we're the state and local enforcement partners to find answers, the FBI said, according to the Post. They've been saying the same thing for 20 years. They're not going to do anything. As detailed in his obituary, Sullivan earned a Bronze Star for valor in Operation Ending Freedom, and later had several top secret posts, including with the Air Force Intelligence Agency, National Air and Space Intelligence Center, and the National Security Agency, NSA. Oh, top secret clearance. It was all about the programs, was going to testify as a whistleblower. Had a crazy mixture of drugs that he OD'd on. The Post report continued, Sullivan held, quote, the burden that a select few in this nation have of truly understanding what's going on. Retired Major General David Abba, who served as Director of Special Programs and later as Director of the Department of Defense Special Access Program, Central Office, said at the funeral. So he had his finger in a lot of areas that are very, very sensitive, especially when it comes to UFOs, right? Non-human bodies. I'll tell you what Matt Gaetz said when he was debriefed, and I'll come back to that in late June. This is just to talk about the missing people and their connection to it. Sullivan was part of a so-called legacy UFO program, the U.S. government's crash retrieval program. We're talking about, right? Extraterrestrial crash. The U.S. government's crash retrieval program that has operated for decades in the shadows across several executive branch agencies, source told the Post. Unnamed sources also told the Post that Sullivan had personally seen UFOs the federal government had retrieved. Boy, you wouldn't want him to testify before Congress in an open meeting. The American public couldn't handle that, is what most of these intelligence agencies and the government that runs the government, right, the deep state, they can't handle that. And would have revealed the legacy program at the Congressional hearing scheduled in November of 2024. He was set to just open a can of worms, right? Under oath. Other UFO whistleblowers have said they face threats to their safety after coming forward with information. Not a few, almost every one of them. Especially if you're in the military, one of these pilots, right? And you were to discuss that or expose that, your career is over. David Grush, G-R-U-S-C-H, the Air Force and Intel community veteran who generated national headlines when he testified to Congress in 2023, wrote a letter the year before to the Intel Community Office of the Inspector General that he faced reprisals after reporting evidence of UFOs, now designated by the federal government as UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena. See, they changed the name like we'd forget. They denied Roswell. I showed you that one time, right? They denied it the next day. They told the truth the first night, then the next day they denied it. They've lied about Area 51 for decades and decades until finally they came forward and said, yeah, there is an Area 51. I can list about 20 things if I choose to in June of what the government has lied to us about, and you'll be shocked. Between programs that gave syphilis to people, LSD programs, just... Grush testified that the U.S. was in possession of UAPs. Here we go, okay? You can see what down below. He testified that the United States was in possession of UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena, and non-human biologics. Testified under oath. And he was threatened afterwards. A version of Grush's letter was sent to the ICOIG and included information regarding Sullivan's death, the Post reported sources saying. We as a family will be aware and we won't be caught off guard. We won't be fearful and conspiracy crazy, just grounded, and just be aware of these things. The agency told the tabloid, ICOIG, here we go, this is typical government speak, can neither confirm or deny the existence of any ongoing or potential investigation. They hide behind that, all of them do, or national security. That trumps everything, right? It's national security. So there's David. David Grush is a former United States Air Force officer, an intelligence official who has claimed that the U.S. federal government, in collaboration with private aerospace companies, remember I told you, that's where they hide their stuff, right? They give those programs to reverse engineer and do all those other things, and those aerospace companies are not under FOIA, right? They don't have to because they're private or public. They don't have to. The government does, and half the time they don't agree or do it, but FOIA is a Freedom of Information Act. In collaboration with private aerospace companies, has highly secretive special access programs involved in the recovery and reverse engineering. This is what he testified. This is not me making it up. And I don't know if it was reported because I wasn't watching the news. Recovery and reverse engineering of, I'm quoting this by the way, this I didn't write it, non-human spacecraft and their dead pilots. Non-human aircraft, extraterrestrial, and dead pilots, extraterrestrial, right? Not from Earth. Not human. And that people have been threatened and killed in order to conceal these programs. Boy, Jim, I wouldn't talk about those things. I serve a monarch, a king, and the king has an army, a host of army, and my protection with Kimberly and Luke is under his authority, which is higher than anything else. So as I go his way he chooses. What he asks me to speak about, I speak about. Transparently, candidly, and in love, right? Not to disparage certain people, but to simply say these things are going on, it's happening, people are missing, people are being killed. For what? So here they are, Washington, D.C. from left, Ryan Graves, David Grush, and David Ferber testified before a House subcommittee about unidentified anomalous phenomena, right? Unidentified aerial phenomena, right? Now they said anomalous. Well, it was aerial, UAP. Now they changed the thing. Just call it a UFO. The panel heard testimony from Ryan Graves, a former Navy pilot who has spoken out about encountering UAPs on training missions, and David Farber, who spotted a large object captured in the now famous Tic Tac video during a flight off the coast of California in 2004. It was not released publicly by the Navy nor the government. It was given to somebody that released it over the internet. The story behind the Tic Tac UFO sightings by Navy pilots in 2004. Just a little background. All three witnesses said current reporting systems are inadequate to investigate UAP encounters. Discouraged, career ending, stigma attached to you. And said a stigma, here it is, still exists for pilots and officials who press for more transparency about their experiences. They can't. They keep it to themselves. Graves was an F-18 pilot stationed in Virginia Beach on November 14th, 2014, when his squadron first began detecting unknown objects. Not human-made, not any aircraft, certainly nothing the Chinese and the Russians have, right? We have the greatest military on the face of the earth, according to our current president. And you can look at their budget and it speaks for itself. So either we have it and they don't, or we don't have it and neither does China, neither does Russia. So someone with additional capabilities, quote unquote, the intelligence, and I had talked about the first time, right, that extraterrestrials had transferred knowledge to humans, going back to Genesis 6. Look at the book of Enoch. First began detecting unknown objects. He described them as, quoting, dark gray or black cubes inside of a clear sphere where the apex or tips of the cubes were touching the inside of that sphere. They say that sphere around it protects it from anything else. They, and I may share that later, had shot some missiles at it. I think it might be in here. Some Hellfire missiles bounced off. He said a fellow pilot told him about one incident about 10 miles off the coast in which an object between 5 and 15 feet in diameter flew between two F-18s and came within 50 feet of the aircraft. I think grays are supposed to be about 3 or 4 feet tall. He said there was no acknowledgement of the incident or way to report the encounter at the time. UAP encounters, he said, were not rare or isolated. All their training missions, this also has been reported during warfare. There's the Tic Tac, see it over there? My name is Chad Underwood, call sign Nuts. I was lieutenant at the time on USS Nimitz. I filmed the Tic Tac video, okay, serving under my commander, Officer Dave Ferber. I wanted to bring every single mode and zoom that the FLIR is capable of back to the carrier so we could analyze this thing, because I'm not going to be able to solve this problem in real time. In other words, when he's in his jet flying, observing this. It was offensively jamming technology, higher than what we probably have. It was offensively jamming us just outside international waters in peacetime operations. It's an act of war. Oh, So they were jamming you. It was an act of war. I didn't hear anything about it. And we're going to go out there and make sure you pay for that, is what his attitude was. There's the Tic Tac video, by the way. And it's on the internet, and you can hear them live wondering, what in the world is that thing, the way it was moving, right? This was leaked. It wasn't given. Now, afterwards, they came out. And the same thing with Diedrich, right? Cohn, Navy pilot, remembers the absurdity of her famous UFO sightings, right? Retired Navy Lieutenant Commander Alex Diedrich was one of two Super Hornet pilots who encountered a strange aircraft in the shape of a gigantic Tic Tac that disappeared in front of their eyes. On November 14, 2004, there's Diedrich and Commander Ferber, her squadron commander, were both dispatched to check out one of the strange aircraft. What happened next became known in UFO folklore as the USS Nimitz UFO incident. The Navy aviators saw the tic-tac-shaped object that had no wings, markings, or exhaust plumes. That's evidence of UFO. They have no wings, no markings, no exhaust plumes, right? And a FLIR camera can catch that because of the heat. So he flew closer to it. The unidentified aircraft responded by mimicking the movements of Ferber's Super Hornet. It was aware we were there, Ferber said when he and Diedrich were interviewed. And when it gets right in front of them, it just disappears. Within seconds, the aircraft reappeared on Princeton's radar. It had traveled 60 miles in that short period of time. Nothing we have can do that now. You may have seen Tom Cruise in the movie, his last one, Top Gun, when they had to go up and hit 10 Gs. And he said, if I felt like your brain would be in the back of your skull, 10 Gs. The human capabilities are limited when it comes to those type of movements, right? Well, here's another one. The U.S. Congressional hearing on UAPs, November 13, 2024. Titled, Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena, Exposing the Truth. Really? Featured testimony from Dr. Tim Gauntlet, a retired Rear Admiral in the U.S. Navy, former Department of Defense official Luis Escalante. I like this Luis guy. He was with it, and in limitations in his government position, they wouldn't let him do the things he wanted to do, so he retired and now he's on his own. He is one of the foremost, though, in the country. And former NASA Administrator Michael Gold, an independent journalist, right? So these things are taking place where there are a few in Congress. I mentioned some when I had talked about it previously. I'll talk about it again in the future. That they're looking into these because it's serious. You can call it national security and call it anything else. Congressman shows never before seen video at military UFO hearing. Video appears to show missile, here it is, bounce off mysterious aircraft. Right? UFOs is the truth out there. So he said, video appears to show a missile bounce off. A never before seen video released Tuesday by a member of Congress appears to show a U.S. military Hellfire missile bouncing off a bright, shiny object that was being tracked off the coast of Yemen on October 30th, 2024. That ought to alert somebody. Missiles don't even. The video was released at a House Government Oversight Subcommittee hearing into unidentified anomalous phenomena, which is the military term for UFOs. During the hearing, Representative Eric Burleson played a video that he said, I've been given. Well, no, a lot of those things have been given to the congressman, and that he claimed was taken by an MQ-9 Reaper drone. Drones fire missiles. So, without going into programs that we have been lied to, I can just say, going back way before, but even World War II and soldiers that were mistreated and programs done on them by the CIA. But just a few programs. There are 17 intel agencies, right? But I mentioned a few of these programs. Project RAND, 1950, Project Blue Book, 1951, Project Twinkle is 1951, was a program for disinformation. They do that all the time. Project Moonstruck was CIA in 1952. Project Gray Suit, Project Moondust, Project Stork, Project Supremacy, Project Snowbird, covert programs, DARPA, Project Pegasus, Blue Boys, that was in a group, they flew helicopters and did UFO work. But you can see the list. Project Majestic 12, CIA, I talked about it 2 or 3 years ago. Project Jehovah, that caught my attention. That's kind of not one you really want to use, his name. He pays attention to that, by the way. This is from 1999. An alleged CIA source tells ufologist Tim Cooper, the UFO control group, UFO ceased to exist in government in 1969. So there was a program, they said it ceased to exist in 1969, became privately funded, and was identified as Jehovah in 1992, and at one time was called Zodiac. He claimed the original Majestic 12 was a consolidation of 2 Pentagon projects, Majestic and Jehovah, overseen by a group of 12 institutions within military intelligence and science. The highest classification as of the letter was termed sacred, not top secret, not polygraph type, sacred, a follow-on to the term Trine, T-R-I-N-E, and Umbra, U-M-B-R-A. So I have not disclosed any classified information. Everything that I have taken is from public information, public documents, and there's a whole trove of it that I will teach this next lesson and then get back into some of these things. And the reason I'm covering is not only the UAPs, not only the biologics, non-human biologics that have been found, right? And what Matt said, there are different programs and cloning and all those things that are going on. But to show you a deception, right? There are deceptions, and there is a great deception. And when I start covering these, I'm going to be thorough, because it's taken him, the Lord Jesus Christ, years to teach and show me these things. And I'm not asking you to believe it. I'm going to present it to you as our family and just let you know that it's there and put it in the back of your mind. So I will end it with this. President Donald Trump claims the Pentagon study on UFOs will be released very soon. So I'm asking the president, would you please follow through on what you've said? I know you have a lot of, ballrooms and lawsuits and Iran and Pakistan. Why you trust Pakistan, I have no clue. A nuclear nation that is not our friend. They're our friends when they go against India. India wants to be our friend, but India is getting closer to our enemies. But nevertheless, so President Donald Trump, he said he would release this. Now, I don't know. It might be 1,000 pages and 999 of them might be redacted. But I'm asking the president, not only for the UFO program, for what they have, it's time for the American people to see. But it's also time because there is a deception coming, whether they release this type of stuff or not. It's happening all over the world. It's happening all throughout the United States. They call them, quote unquote, hotspots, right? Orbs and all these other things, right? Skinwalker Ranch is one of the most popular shows. There's Ancient Aliens, another popular show. All of these shows. So I'm asking that this information be released to the public so we can look at it and digest it and know the truth. And all of these people that are missing, all these mysterious deaths may end if it was released. I have no confidence that will be. I believe that these programs will continue to be covered up covertly, and that people will continue to be threatened and mysteriously become missing, or there'll be fatalities. thank you. I hope that just these last few minutes, at least something to share with you. Sitting around talking over a cup of coffee. And give you something to think about. Thank you. We will continue to pray for you, your peace that passes all understanding, your safety, excuse me, both physically from germs, infections, and you'll see in 2020, the Lord showed me 2019, and I talked about it in 2020 in 10 different lessons before the public even knew. This thing being funded by the United States taxpayer dollars in Wuhan, China, in the lab, where several of the scientists were exposed to a deadly virus. You'll see all those things. The Lord knew and prophetically talked about it ahead of time. I'm telling you this is going to unravel whether they like it or not, because there's too many, and the frequency of it is increasing and increasing and increasing, because we are in the latter days. Peace, safety, physical safety, but also that the Lord Jesus Christ would bless you, body, soul, and spirit. Thank you, and until I see you the next time, the Lord bless you.